The topic of today's recording is on the best practices in computer-assisted language learning, or CAL. And we're at the end of the course, and so I wanted to say a few parting words before I send you all along. And this recording connects with a recording that I posted at the beginning of the course about the goals of CAL. So now that you've had your training in CAL, and I've seen from the reactions that most of you have understood what it's all about, but I just wanted to re-emphasize some of the items that we have discussed. So first of all, what you see in front of you is the integration of technology into teaching and learning, and I will be talking a little bit more about this. Number one, when you deal with computer-assisted language learning, and I do want you to keep this in mind whenever you work with technology, it must be an integral part of learning and teaching. As we have discussed, it cannot be technology for technology's sake. You should not just be instructing your students on how to use the tool, but first and foremost, you need to think about how this particular tool, any tool, fits into your curriculum, fits into your teaching, and fits into the student's learning plan. That is the integration of technology. You need to make sure that you have a pedagogical framework, that your technology and the tool works into, and not the other way around. So, what do I mean by pedagogical framework? Well, you have something in front of you. I will be talking more about it, but it's much more simple than that to begin with. A pedagogical framework, number one, is it has objectives. And so whatever you do with technology, you need to think about what objectives does the tool or does your use of technology support. And those objectives, of course, come from the curriculum in your course or in your program. So set that up clearly in your mind, and also pass on how the technology works into the objectives. Pass this on to your students so that they are very clear about why they're using the technology. And you also need to make it very clear how the use of the technology will be assessed. Not just the use of it per se, but in support of language learning. And do not forget that that is your ultimate goal, and that is what you need to assess. All too often that is forgotten. So after the objectives, of course, you present, probably using the technology. You have the students practice with the use of technology, and then you have the performance. Again, the student showing you how well they can use the technology in support of the objective. And then you should have some follow-up activities that, again, show and integrate the use of technology into learning. And that brings me to number two, as part of the integration of technology into learning and teaching. Technology is wonderful because it works for blended learning. In other words, with the use of technology, you're able to extend your classroom and make the learning and the teaching ubiquitous. And that is an immeasurable expansion of learning and teaching in our field, and therefore it should drive your pedagogy. If you don't assign practice exercises for outside of class, I question the use of technology or the appropriate use of technology. It should extend your classroom and make learning available wherever the students are and whenever they need it. Now, that brings me to the Pedagogical Framework for 21st Century that you have in front of you. At the center of that is interaction and collaboration. That is what teaching is all about, and I think we all agree on that. And integration and collaboration involves teachers to students, students to students, and teacher to teacher. So it's not just between you and the students, it is also between you and your colleagues. And that covers face-to-face teaching and learning in your classroom. It covers the blended learning environment, and it also covers distance learning and teaching. In order to accomplish that, Web 2.0 tools, you have experienced them, you know that they facilitate these modes of learning. They support the learning, they support your teaching, they support face-to-face, blended, and distance learning and teaching. And so they are and should be an integral part of what you do using technology from here on out. And so as I move around this pedagogical framework, when you use technology appropriately, you can make sure that your learners are engaged in the learning process by using collaborative and interactive tools that facilitate this. Thus, technology allows you to create a learner-centered environment where teachers and learners interact and collaborate. Web 2.0 tools in particular, but also other tools, PowerPoint, Word, etc., they should be used to integrate the 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. There are so many tools at your hand that facilitate the integration of the 4 skills. And just to re-emphasize, technology must support language learning. Yes, PBL is an integral part of, and should be an integral part of learning and teaching as well. But projects, while they are wonderful for critical thinking, they must have a language component built in. And this language component and the critical thinking component should allow learners to co-construct meaning using their critical thinking skills and using language to express them. As I said at the beginning, computer-assisted language learning needs to have assessment built in. Assessment means that the students need to know, and it should be transparent, how they will be assessed on the use of technology and how their language skills are being evaluated in the use of this technology. You could do that through e-portfolios, for example. You could do it through many other tools such as online gradebooks, e-journals, blogs, and you know about wikis. Wikis are probably the best way to build an environment that allows for ubiquitous learning and teaching. Your other assignment is to drive yourself and your students toward autonomy in the use of these tools and in the use of these tools toward language learning. You start out by scaffolding, but you should always keep autonomy in the back of your mind, and then toward the end of the course, make sure that your learners know how to use the help support functions to learn more about one particular tool or all the tools that you have employed and future tools. So you need to create independent learners that can then use any tool and make it their own in support of their learning activities. That, of course, also involves networking among the students and networking among teachers. And so that involves ubiquitous learning and teaching, where all of what you do is transparent, public to the point where you like it, where you want your students to have it public, whatever they do, have it public or not. Most of that computing will be cloud-based, and don't forget to back up your information in the cloud. It allows students to keep learning on a continuous basis. It allows your colleagues to keep learning on a continuous basis. This is also important for administrators, those of you who may move into administrative functions. Much of this learning needs to be disseminated to other teachers and should be available on a network basis in the cloud for all to access. And that brings me to my last point, the third one. At the end of this course, you are now call ambassadors. I hope that I have shown you many tools that you can employ in teaching and learning. It is important that you yourself move yourself toward this autonomy that I mentioned earlier. As call ambassadors, it is your job and your responsibility to use technology in a pedagogically purposeful way, in a pedagogical framework that I have explained for 21st century learning. You need to show others, and you will need to train others. And you will find that all of these pieces will come into play in the short run and in the long run as you work with computer-assisted language learning. And I thank you very much for a wonderful course and wish you all the best as call ambassadors, and maybe we will see each other again. This framework I have lectured about, I've given keynotes on the use of call in various places in the world, as you may know, and I'd be happy to come and speak to you if you find that necessary and valuable. All the best for the future.